Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our earlier than usual council meeting. Before we begin, we acknowledge that we're in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Williams and Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis peoples on this land and show respect to them today. We acknowledge our neighbors, the Wata Mohawks, the First Nations of Moose Deer, Shawniga, Wasauksing, Magnetawan, Henley Inlet, Nipissing, and Dokies. As we are learning from our First Nation partners of the Wasauksing First Nation, we stress the importance of accepting our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared peoples. We look to each other and the elders of both nations as a source of inspiration, guidance, and the living memory of our communities. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land before us for thousands of years. So I'll call this meeting to order and ask for approval to the agenda. Is that you're approving it, or you've got a question? You're approving. Okay, thank you. Is there any pecuniary interest to disclose or general nature thereof? Nope, I see that. None. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of council held on November 6, 2023 as circulated. A motion? And the seconder, Gail. All in favor? And we have 4 delegations today. The first being Kathy Radon. Hello, Kathy, from
Hi,
Dillon Consultant, who's going to go over the final copy of the waste strategy report. So,
perfect. Thank you very much. I will share my screen. So please let me know if you're not seeing a presentation at this point. That should be up.
Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. So I'm happy to present the waste management strategy for Seguin. As you probably know, this is the township's first waste management strategy, and it contemplates the 20-year.
Kathy, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. We've got a technical problem. One television is not working.
Okay, sure.
Just one second, and then we'll. Okay, Kathy, we're back in business. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. Go ahead. Yeah, thanks. It's always great to address these things. So as I was saying, the strategy looks out over the 20-year horizon. And what we provide with a waste strategy is really a guidance document to look out over the long term so that you can really assess things by looking at infrastructure, policies, and programs and contemplating them not just year to year, but over a long course. So this document provides direction. And let me actually just advance that. So the strategy is to provide Seguin's first waste management strategy and to provide options to improve infrastructure programs and policies over the long term. We started with some foundation principles: recycle and reuse what can be recycled, adopt a straightforward waste management system to encourage public cooperation engagement, and balance the program to promote community engagement, environmental responsibility, and economic vitality. So you might remember that I presented on September 1st at an earlier delegation. So just to really quickly recap where we were at that point was starting into phase 3. Phase 1 had been taking a look at the current state and talking about people's perception, community's perception of waste management. And then we looked at anticipated population growth and future waste management needs. And we set some goals. In phase 3, that's where we started to speak last time about programs and infrastructure changes to meet the goals that we had set out. And then today, where I'm going to add on to what we discussed last time, is around estimated costs and taking a look at sustainable funding model that we've provided to the township to walk through a process for future years to think about what it would mean financially as well to implement these options. So again, just to recap phase one, we looked at where we are now, and we walked through a number of different modules and activities where we looked at what the township knew about its current policies and infrastructure that would set us up for looking at the future. We also reached out to the community through the Let's Connect Seguin website and through a survey that we did as well, and also in person at a couple of events to get the basic background. And if I just jump ahead to how do we get there in phase three, as I mentioned in the last presentation, we set out some goals. Now, these goals were developed knowing what we heard from the public, what we heard from staff, considering the current state of infrastructure, and also trying to align with the strategic plan, the township strategic plan, and as well the climate action plans. So the goals were to make Seguin a waste management leader amongst rural communities, enhance long-term waste management system planning, take action to implement climate change plans, and promote responsible behavior to develop a sharing culture. So from there, what we did was to create a list of options. So we did a long list of 30 options for consideration. That list was looked at by staff as well, and it was quite broad in what it included. There were policy and program changes, infrastructure changes, and service changes, as well as looking at the maintenance. We shortlisted that down to a list of 12 potential options. And those are ones that we wanted to look at in more detail. So with those 12 options, we did a cost-benefit analysis. We used a triple bottom line. So as you might know, triple bottom line looks at environmental, social, and financial indicators. And we had some questions that we developed. So for example, will this option reduce waste going to landfill? That's an environmental criteria. So we evaluated based on criteria from each of those categories. Then we set up an implementation timeline. And this was really to understand how the options would fit together and what sequence they could go in. And then we developed this sustainable funding model for the township, and that involved a sub-consultant. So I'll speak a bit more about that in a few minutes. But that was our process for developing the options. So for each of these, we looked at we considered how the options could fit together. For example, some of them you want to do some background research and really get a handle on your current state or like the impact of that option before you move to the next option. If there's hours of operation put in at the transfer stations, that could change the waste quantities. So you might want to do that, so you have an understanding of how that one impacts the next option. So we laid them out in this way. Number 9, you'll see there's not a time frame provided. And the thinking there is that we always need to have infrastructure at the transfer stations. So the trans stores that you have now must be maintained and until you replace them or put in another solution. So that one is a constant. So then we got into thinking about what needs to go into doing each of these options. And so these are just the first 6 options. And we thought about the cost for planning and the cost for implementation both. The costs are all rounded up to the closest $500. And the chart is identifying the total costs. So for some of them, there are things that are needed in order to move forward, like an ECA. An ECA is an environmental compliance agreement, and every waste site must have that. Your sites do have them, but if there are changes, you may need to apply for an amendment to the ECA, and that would be something that is a process you'd have to go through to develop a design plan and this sort of thing. So we listed out all of the assumptions that we would make around what you would need to do to implement the option in a certain way. So that's outlined in the report. And based on how we've conceptualized doing each of these options, we've provided detailed costing. What you see here is the totals. And these are according to the assumptions that we made about how it would be done as well. So there are choices that will be made from time to time as you go through actually implementing the options that will affect these costs. But as we see it, as it would be logical to roll it out, this is what we've estimated. Now, some of them, for example, number 2, you can see there's planning, but we did not contemplate implementation costs. Reason being is that the planning work will greatly impact the type of system that you would choose. And so your implementation costs could vary considerably. So we've taken the assumptions as far as we can go. And then there'll be some information that you would need for that number 2. If you're studying the feasibility of organics program, you need to know a little bit more about the expected feedstock. So you'd need to look at some audits and this sort of thing to get the right technology. And we've planned that one that way, for example, just because you don't want to make capital choices until you have the information that we would recommend that you get first. So that's 6 of them. And then we have another 6 options. I'll point out number 12 as well, just to call that one out a bit and explain a little bit. There's no cost associated with this one. This option is to consider increasing public works staff complement. So the way that we actually decided to lay it out in the report is that the cost for staffing is rolled into the option. So you can see that there's a particular number of hours that staff would need to dedicate to doing the option. And that's included in the above 11 options rather than listed specifically as 12. It works out, if you're going to implement all of these options, it works out to about 2 full-time positions in the end. So, as I mentioned, we sub-consulted to Watson and Associates, which is a group of economists, and they provided a sustainable funding model. So what that means is that at a high level, they looked at the operating and capital costs that you currently experience and looked at the way that that's set up and calculated a cost of service for solid waste. So that's for everything you currently do, that portion, that X amount is being used on solid waste. And they were able to separate it out for solid waste and for blue box on separate lines, which will be important in the future to have an understanding of that. And then they calculated out, if you implement all of these options, what that cost of service is. So that goes over the 20-year horizon, including both the capital and the operating costs. The other thing about this model that's important is that it's a working document. So we've provided it to staff and it can be adjusted as needed over the course of time to see what would happen as you move forward with options. The reason why it's important to separate the solid waste and the blue box is because you have an agreement with CMO, Circular Materials Ontario, for them to operate the blue box program. And using the model, you can see the cost for blue box separate from the cost for solid waste services. And that will put you in a good position for future negotiations that are coming up in 2025, next 2 years from now, so that you can say, okay, well, here are our costs. I'll just show at a really high level here. Again, this is taken from the report from Watson's portion. And currently, solid waste funding from property taxes is approximately $1.1 million. Grants and user fees are a small portion currently of what's funding solid waste. And solid waste is about 7.5% of the overall tax levy currently. So here we have, as a result of this strategy and of Watson's work to look at the costs in the future, if we put it all together over the 20 years, we're seeing the cost of service for both operating and capital is wrapped into this as well, based on the timeline that we provided to Watson for implementing the option. They've calculated where the capital would have to happen. And that's also assuming that you're maintaining your existing expenditures around the infrastructure that you currently have. As well, I should mention that we've included inflation in the numbers in an annual inflation rate, which is just 2% here, with 5% for hydro expenses, as well as an assumed inflation rate. So based on the financial modeling, along with discussions with the township, we have the cost of service for future years for waste and for Blue Box. And so finally, the total for 2043 would be $2.7 million. Assuming with all of the assumptions that things would be rolled out as they are described in the report. Again, just in closing, what I'll say is that this is a guiding document to give an idea of full costs and full strategy options over a course of 20 years' time to maintain a state-of-the-art system with tools that are provided at your disposal to calculate and adjust the model on an annual basis, and to consider how those options should be scaled for your future needs, and what would be involved in rolling out each of the strategy options as they're planned out in this strategy. The model can be used and updated by staff in future years prior to the budget, and the timeline can be adjusted as well, depending on future needs. So we have at this point provided a AODA compliant report to staff with these with the strategy outlined. So thank you very much, and
thank you, Kathy. Does council have any questions for Kathy at this point? Councillor Brzezinski.
I just have a couple right off the top, Kathy. Have you got any experience in terms of waste diversion, in terms of, say, composting? Like, what size of a community would you need to make this feasible?
Yeah, so what I would know right off is that there are a number of communities, Sarnia is one of them right now, that are looking at implementing organics programs for the first time. I say Sarnia because they've come to us just recently asking about it. And because their size is sufficient that they're anticipating that the provincial targets that have been set in the food strategy, that they would need to take some action over the coming years. With the size of the township, it's considerably smaller, and the provincial targets are not currently set. So there's no obligation to. However, the idea is to take food out of the waste stream, which would reduce your garbage load. So to do audits would be the next step to see what the composition is.
Just to follow up on that, I know there was an audit done when I was on council previously, and I don't know what the results were, but I'm just wondering because, you know, I look and I know Aurelia at the size of 32,000 has an organics program in place. I just wondered, there must be some sort of a minimum cutoff where it makes sense to do that. And that's just a point, really. I'm not going to try and go any further with that. The other thing I was going to say was that, I mean, in terms of my background and when I worked as a partner in your company, I was very much involved with energy and energy from waste. And I know a company on Manitoulin Island that's trying to develop a program where they'll take all the waste from the municipal landfills, including Little Current and so on, plus all the First Nation reserves. And they figure they have a volume of waste enough that they've got a very advanced type of, I don't want to say incineration because it's not the classic term of incineration, but anyway, long and the short of it, again, it's the volume of waste and the size of community. And I don't think that Seguin is large enough to do that from my experience.
Yeah, they would want, you'd want to be sure that you have the appropriate feedstock. I think that you probably wouldn't. One thing to remember with that type of solution is that it's really, if it's a waste to energy type of thing, it's biofuel like wood and plastic. So those are the inputs that a system would probably need. So there's a lot, even if you took your total waste quantities, there's probably, you know, some materials in there that aren't really great for that kind of a solution. Wood and plastic are probably what they're looking for in the feedstock.
I think they were talking about burning municipal garbage as well, but yeah, I just happy to hear you say you don't think that our community is large enough to be able to do that by ourselves, because that's been my experience in the past.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, thank you. In the Watson and Associates report, so it states that solid waste management currently is about 7.5% of our total property levy. How does that stack up with other rural municipalities based on population? So for example, another rural municipality with roughly the same population, what percentage of like our overall cost of management and the percent, not so much what percent of the tax roll that is our overall cost?
That's a good question. Well, what I would say is unique here is that you don't have collection service that goes door to door. And so a municipality that has that would have a much higher cost of service, because that's usually a large portion of the costs of a waste system is those collection vehicles or the collection contract. So it's quite comparatively low to anywhere that would have like more service in that way. And also not having staffed sites means that your services are quite low cost, because many other municipalities that have depots would have staff at those depots, and that would increase the cost quite a bit. So, you know, when you're comparing the cost, you have to compare what the service level is too. And I would say that on the whole, both service level and costs are comparatively low when looking at other rural municipalities.
Okay, so then let's go one step further then. So for a rural municipality of this size, what the total tonnage of waste disposed per year, just disposed through our transfer system, and ultimately ends up either in up in McDougall or down south, I guess, still. How does that tonnage per, how does that tonnage per resident? Okay, so the total tonnage divided by the number of households, I guess, per household, how does that stack against municipalities, or do you know?
I'm not sure off the top of a comparative, but I think that your tipping fee is low. Like your agreement with McDougall, the cost per ton to tip, I believe that's quite low compared to other municipalities. But I might have to do a bit more research to say overall cost per ton per person.
Or per household, I think.
Per household, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then you have to factor in that the households in this municipality, a lot of them are seasonal in nature, so they're not full-time households. So I think that's the conundrum there. I think that's, in my mind, where what I would like to see is how currently are we stacking up cost-wise against, like, compare an apple to an apple.
I think you might want to also, and so I apologize that I don't have the figure, but the number of tons per person, because of the concern that people from outside of the jurisdiction are dumping out within the jurisdiction. So if you're doing that calculation, just be careful that you're accounting as well. If your cost per person is too high, are they really your residents, or are they from outside? The other concern.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And yes, that is an issue. We all watch cars drive in off the highway and visit our transfer stations, and we know very well they don't live here.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I have a motion here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the Corporation of Township Seguin Waste Strategy and Strategy Report as attached as Schedule A to this resolution. Could I have a motion to that effect? Gail, and a seconder. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Councillor Bazinski.
I'd just like to confirm that although we adopt the report, that we would still have further discussion in terms of the options that are presented.
Through you, your worship, yeah, the adoption of the report provides us with a high level directional pathway with respect to waste management. Any details specifically, especially anything that has any budget implications, of course, come back to council through the budget cycle.
Yes, and that's fine. I just wanted to verify that. Thank you.
Okay, and second delegation is ERA Architects on the Rosso Memorial Hall Draft Master Plan. Welcome.
Thank you.
To you. Can you all hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We will turn it over to you people, perhaps for the benefit of all of council that hasn't been at your sessions and our audience today. You could introduce yourselves first and then get into your report.
Mayor McDermott, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. Well, good afternoon all, and thank you so much for having us here today. Hello to everybody on council who we haven't met and everybody who we have met before. I'm Samantha Irvine. I'm a senior associate with ERA Architects, and I'm here with my colleagues Kurt Kraler and Zoe Chapin. We have, as many of you know, had the pleasure of working closely with township staff since January, and engaging with the community in Rosso since May on this project. And we're very pleased to be here to update you on its progress. This presentation is meant to walk you through some of the main findings of our draft cultural heritage strategy and master plan for the Rosso Memorial Community Hall. And we're happy to take any questions. You will also have the opportunity to comment on this draft report, which was circulated to you earlier, and we'll have a little bit more detail on that later in the presentation. We do have a slide deck that's coming up right now. Oh, magnificent. So we'll start by just introducing the firm very briefly. I don't know if we have a slide to speak to it, but we are an architecture, there we go, an architecture planning landscape firm who focuses largely on heritage conservation. We've been in practice since 1990, and we have offices in Toronto, where I'm calling from, and Montreal and Ottawa. And we really operate from a place of being interested in what places can do for people rather than just conserving artifacts. So that is part of what this project is about for us. I think Zoe is going to take it away now, talk about the hall.
Yes, thanks so much, Sam. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. We're really happy to be sharing our update on this project with you today. As you well know, or most of you know, the site is located on the northwest corner of Victoria Street West and Highway 141 in Rosso. And this map on the left just gives you a sense of the surrounding context and a lot of nearby businesses and landmarks. And the photo on the right shows that the hall is flanked by the Seguin Fire Station 20 to the west and an antique shop to the east. And to the north is Veterans Memorial Park, and all of these are township-owned properties. And as what you will have read in the report, there's a lot line that runs sort of midway through the fire hall, and therefore this study sort of includes some thinking around how these two sites could interface in the long run. So we are sort of at a momentous juncture in that the hall is turning 100 in 2024. It was fundraised and built by the community, and it was commemorated to soldiers lost in the First World War. And this commemoration was later extended to fallen soldiers of the Second World War. And over the years, it served as a central community gathering space. There's a library in the basement, and for a time, it served as a village office prior to amalgamation. And an enthusiastic, committed group of community members have always been at the center of caring for and programming the hall. And several rounds of repairs and upgrades have taken place with the help of the township, including in 2004 to 2006, some restoration work, and in 2017, several accessibility upgrades, including a ramp and elevator were added. So to give you a sense of existing conditions, here are some photos from the site. Overall, the building is in good condition, but there are a few areas of poor condition where we're seeing sort of water gathering on the outside of the building or backsplashing on the building. Yeah, so some issues of standing water between the fire hall and the hall. And on the interior, the space is characterized by a main large hall space and a really prominent stage with a proscenium arch. And in the basement, what you're seeing on the bottom row of pictures here, there is the Rosso branch of Seguin Public Libraries, a community kitchen, and an open workspace. So our project mandate involved in evaluating current and future programming needs on the site. So what is the hall being used for, and what do people want to use it for? Enhancing the facility to achieve long-term viability, maintaining the cultural and historical significance of the hall, and making sure that any interventions are reflecting the values and the needs of the local community. To obtain community input on the project, we've been engaged since May, working to collect feedback in a variety of ways. One of them was a community working group, which met 3 times over the course of the project. And they really helped us review draft materials, and they'll also be reviewing our draft report. We conducted an online and paper survey in June and July, and we've had several in-person events, including a summer open house, a hands-on stakeholder workshop, as well as a fall open house. And you'll find a lot more information on exactly what we heard, but at a high level, just to give you a sense of some of the themes that emerged from what we heard from the public, is that number one, engaging with the community, that building awareness of the hall's offerings and including the community in decisions about how the hall is used in future is incredibly important. As we said, there's a highly motivated and engaged group of residents who care about the hall. Versatility and wide appeal. This theme sort of speaks to the wide audience that uses the hall and age groups and the types of activities that people want to use the hall for, so making sure it's flexible. Conservation of historic character. The hall and the village, what really a lot of people said that the hall and village should be celebrated through both conservation of the building and more storytelling about the history of these places. Functionality and maintenance. We heard a lot about improvements that the community would like to see to support positive user experiences and promote sort of like a safe working environment for people who work in the building. And this theme of this space being a civic hub also emerged, both historically and in the future. There's the potential for the site provide a range of high quality community friends that can reinforce connectivity between the hall and downtown Rosso. So from these themes, we sort of distilled design drivers that would help us in formulating design recommendations for the site. So the first being conserve the hall's built fabric per heritage best. And this is outlined in the Parks Canada document, the standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada. Provide opportunities for inclusive interpretation and storytelling about the village and about the site. Enhance the hall's functionality, so looking at improvements to the kitchen and washrooms, etc. Ensuring the hall remains a flexible space for a range of users and uses. Maintain the hall's overall state of repair, so addressing issues like air quality and, like we mentioned, those areas around the building where there's some water damage. Determining which community needs can be met on the site in the short, medium, and long term, and allowing for these to be addressed using a phased approach that can be scaled over time based on the availability of funding and community needs. So I will pass it over to my colleague, Kurt, who will talk about the schematic design recommendations.
Great, thank you, Zoe. So I'm going to walk you all through the preliminary proposed design that was developed based on those design drivers that Zoe had highlighted previously. So the design has 3 phases, which can be implemented based on the availability of funding as well as community need and support. It may also be determined that all of these phases are feasible, but we wanted to provide a roadmap for the project going forward with our recommendations. So looking at phase 1 here, we'd recommend addressing just the repairs and upgrades to optimize the existing operations of the hall as is. So based on our preliminary condition assessment of the building, we identified a few areas where better drainage and waterproofing would be required, including at the base of the ramp that goes into the library in the basement, as well as between the fire hall and the memorial hall, and around the foundation, especially at the back of the memorial hall. There are also other areas where stone repointing and replacement is required, especially on the chimney to the northwest corner of the building. And we'd recommend having a septic consultant review the existing septic system, which has been installed a number of years ago, in order to consider other options in order to reduce the footprint of the septic system and improve the green space at the back. And there's also an opportunity to install a dumbwaiter or a lift to lift catering and dishes between the kitchen in the basement to the open hall above, just to improve that connectivity between the 2 spaces. Through the basement, So here you can see we're making a series of recommendations around replacing some of the equipment, especially the gas stove in the kitchen is currently off-gassing and produces an unpleasant odor. So just wanting to make sure that the kitchen is a more user-friendly space. We're also looking at improving ventilation and air circulation in the basement, which would help with the overall air quality of the space and promote drying of the foundation walls, which are currently seeing some mold and some water penetration. It should also be noted that the report has a more detailed list of repairs and upgrades, as well as a priority list so that items can be checked off as they are addressed. And there's a list from immediate needs to needs that can be addressed in the longer term. So going into phase 2, we wanted to explore the possibility of moving the kitchen up to the ground floor to better improve access to the kitchen from the open hall for larger events with catering. A new addition would help meet this need and could extend the full length of the rear elevation to accommodate this change and provide additional space as well for chair and table storage, which is currently not available in the hall today. New washrooms could also be provided. The ones that were built for the open hall were built in the 1970s and could be updated to meet contemporary needs. And to connect the new addition to the existing hall, only one new opening would have to be created at the northeast corner where an existing window is currently located. So it would be a minimal intervention to the existing building. And in the basement, the new addition would create a space for a permanent public washroom that would replace the temporary one that's on the property today. And this would only be accessible from the exterior to maintaining security when the open hall or the memorial hall is closed, that the public washroom could still be accessible just from the exterior. The new addition could also accommodate a larger mechanical room to be provided, as well as space for the Rosso Historical Society that could have a secure archival space to store documents, photos, and artifacts. As well as with the kitchen moving upstairs, the library could expand into that former kitchen space, providing space for additional workstations and storage. This would also free up the open area in the basement for an enclosed meeting room that could be rented out, as well as designated space for the Historical Society to display photographs, historic photographs of the community that could be on view to the public. You'll also notice that the corridor for the new addition is adjacent to the former exterior wall of the hall. So this would help provide views of the stone masonry work. And here's some images of other projects that we thought were a good example of showing how a former exterior wall could be displayed and featured in a new addition. And lighting is also really important for highlighting this former stone wall or this exterior wall that's now part of the interior. So that's an important consideration, is how you use natural lighting and as well as artificial lighting to highlight this beautiful stone wall. So for phase 3, we wanted to look at the possibility of providing additional space to accommodate new programming in addition to that which is housed in the existing hall. So the new building would replace the existing fire hall, which there's a possibility that the fire hall could move to a new site, although there are no current plans to do so. So this would be required in order to accommodate this new building. So to maintain the prominence of the memorial hall, the new building should be aligned with the setback of the hall and should have the same or a somewhat smaller footprint in order to allow the memorial hall to remain the most prominent building on Victoria Street. One opportunity identified in increasing the space is increasing the space between the two buildings to allow the stonework on the west elevation of the hall to be visible once again. So currently the fire hall sits too close that west elevation isn't visible from the street. This also creates an opportunity for an entrance to a new park or an outdoor space in the back of the property. So it can be a nice breezeway between the two buildings. In the new building, there's a front lobby area that would provide a prominent display area for a new commemorative plaque to reestablish that historical link between the two buildings. And then currently the library, which is located in the basement, has minimal views from the street. So we thought relocating the library into this new building would allow it to have a new purpose-built space to accommodate contemporary needs for libraries, as well as improving its access and views from the street so people can see into the library and know when it's open and there's people inside. And finally, based on the feedback that we received from the public as well as stakeholders in the area, the need for additional childcare spaces was identified. However, this requires further study just based on planning of other childcare spaces in the area. And we would also suggest that this building could be designed for recreational uses. So new indoor recreational space for seniors as well as teens was also brought up through a lot of our public engagement. And so the next slide shows projects that have been carefully designed so that the new construction references or acknowledges the historical building. So we thought these were some great examples that could be referenced when designing this new building. So things like materials are important to consider in connecting the two buildings, whether they're contrasting, like using glass, or referencing the original building, like using brick or stone. The material of the new building should consider the surrounding context. Other things like massing and the positioning of windows to highlight the neighboring building should also be considered. So if you can see the image on the right, there's a beautiful floor-to-ceiling window that allows views out to the historical buildings in the surrounding context. So we thought that was an important consideration when designing that new building. And then the next slide, we wanted to illustrate the potential for a new addition and building to activate and enhance the existing memorial hall without detracting from it, so that you maintain the prominence and the views of the memorial hall from Victoria Street. And so this in blue shows the size, scale, and location of the proposed addition as well as the new building. And you'll notice that the height of the new construction remains below the height of the memorial hall, which helps maintain that prominence. And other design elements like a pitched roof form also references the original memorial hall and serves a practical function like shedding snow and rain. So moving on to the next slide. We also wanted to mention that parking is being considered and that this is a preliminary look at where parking could be accommodated, especially for that new building. So we'd want to maintain a drop-off area in front of the new building where the fire hall is currently located. You can see on the drawing here, there's a drop-off indicated in front of that phase 3 building. And then the ability to enhance the on-street parking, which is currently available on Victoria Street, but enhancing it by creating more lines and organizing parking better. So of course, this would require some additional consideration, but this is what we identified in our preliminary study of parking in the area. And the township's planning department would also have to be involved in this consideration as well. So next slide. So the big question is, how much will this cost and how long is it going to take? So based on our experience with similar projects in this area, we wanted to provide a high-level cost estimate to help guide funding and next steps. So to reiterate, these estimates are based on current costs and timelines and are subject to change as the project progresses with things like inflation and availability of materials. So for phase 1, we anticipate it would take up to 2 years to complete the repairs and upgrades that were identified in the report to the cost of just over $300,000. And for phase 2, with the consideration of permits and further design development that's required to design the new addition, as well as detail it for construction. So for that whole process from initial design to completion of construction, we're estimating it would take about 3 years to the tune of a maximum of $2 million. So that would be something to consider when financing a new addition. And for phase 3, based on the relocation of the fire hall, and as I mentioned, there's currently no plan for that. So that would have to be orchestrated before any consideration of a new building. But should this become a reality, the design, permits, and construction of a new building would likely take 3 to 4 years from start to finish. And based on current construction costs, this could be completed for about $5 million. So again, these are all subject to change, but just something to help with the planning of the project going forward. So looking into the financial strategy, in the report, we go into this in much more detail, but wanted to provide a high-level overview about how this project could potentially be funded from a range of financial sources. So should the various phases of this plan be pursued, our team has done a review of these available funding opportunities. So these could be through both private and nonprofit organizations, such as the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, family foundations, and businesses with a local presence. We also recognize that various levels of government funding may be available to support this project. It's also our understanding that there's been $400,000 earmarked for the Memorial Hall in the Township's 2024 budget. So that's something to consider as well, especially for phase 1. And additionally, public sector grants geared toward Northern Ontario and other Canada-wide grant programs through Canadian Heritage and Infrastructure Canada could also be pursued. Funding and community giving are also important to consider, and ensuring that the community is involved in the financing of this project. And as I mentioned, this report goes into much more detail about these available revenue streams and the ways that this building could become self-sustaining and a local economic driver. So moving forward, we ask that you take the time to review the report. Like I said, there's a lot more detail in there for your consideration, and forward your comments to Dominique by next Wednesday, November 29th. This will give us time to include comments and update the draft report, as that will then be considered at an upcoming council meeting for council to consider the final plan that's being proposed. So thank you all again. We look forward to hearing your thoughts, and I've left my contact information here. You can reach me and I'll be able to address any questions after this, but we can also take some time now if there's any immediate questions.
Thank you very much, Kirk. We have a question from Councillor Bazinski.
Okay.
Thank you. The third phase of $5 to $7 million, does that include the costs to relocate and rebuild the fire hall?
No, so that would only be the consideration of building the new building. So because there's no details yet on relocating the fire hall, that would be a separate cost.
Correct, but that would have to be done in order to build the new building?
That's right, yep.
Okay. The only other question I had, how many square feet are in the phase 3 building?
So it's on our floor plan. So in the phase 3 building is almost 2,500 square feet.
And the existing one is how much?
It's a similar size footprint. So it's 2,500, but in total, the existing building has 2 floors. So there's a basement and an upper level. So 5,500.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Thank you. What's the current seating in the hall currently?
I don't have that on hand, but I think we were able to fit in at least 50 people for our last meeting, and that was with all the tables in the hall. So, yeah.
I don't know
it's
exactly.
100
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Or what was that?
are seated, but perhaps Dominique can clarify.
100?
That you're saying seated like theater style is how many?
50 with tables, so the large round tables. Yep.
But seated like theater style is what?
The capacity of the hall is 100 upstairs with a total capacity of 150 with the basement as well.
Okay.
So it's a small venue hall.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Finson?
I just have a comment. I don't have a question. I just, my comment is thank you. It's lovely. I really like every part of it. I know it may not all be accomplished, but thank you very much for all your hard work. And I really appreciate it. I can't wait to get out there and start raising some money.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we will get any comments back to Dominique by next week. So the report can be finalized, but I will urge the Rossel community, if they want to see this move forward, they need to establish a building committee or lead or something. Our CAO has something to contribute.
Thank you, worship members of council. I recognize the slide deck encouraged comments by next Wednesday. And of course, we would like your comments as soon as possible. I also recognize that later in this meeting, we're handing you a budget for 2024, and there's going to be an awful lot of reading to take place and an awful lot of questions to be asked. So I'll suggest that while we would love to have your feedback by next week, if you need more time, please feel free to take the time you need to provide those comments. We're not exactly in a rush to bring back a final consideration of this planning exercise, but you have an awful lot on your plates here in the coming weeks. So please feel free to take a bit of time and make sure that your comments are well thought out and not rushed.
Thank you. Thank you very much for everything you've done. I've attended your community sessions and they were well run and lots of input from lots of different age groups. So thank you for getting us this far. We'll keep you posted.
Thank you
Great.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And now I'm going to call on our, I think, in-person delegation of Stephanie and Janet from the Township of Seguin Public Library Board. So Janet is here as the chair of the board and Stephanie, we all know, as the head librarian. You need to push the
Sorry, just waiting for our presentation to pop up. All right, so hi. So we're here from the Seguin Township Public Library to discuss our budget request for 2024. But before Janet gets to that, I wanted to talk to everyone about social return on investment. So this is a term describing the impact of a business or nonprofit's operations in dollar terms relative to the investment required to create that impact. It's a method of measuring the broader impact of organizations like the library that goes beyond traditional numbers and captures the social, environmental, and economic value that it brings to the community. The Ontario Library Service has created a tool for libraries to use to calculate our social return on investment, and it's designed to measure the public libraries and their role as community hubs and capacity for building healthy and resilient people and communities. Libraries build a unique mixture of resources when it comes to our collections, our programming, and our services in response to community needs, enabling people to improve their quality of life and connect to their community in meaningful ways. The Library Toolkit assesses our social return on investment by looking at 7 different indicator areas. So the cultural integrity and regional identity area focuses on special collections and materials related to the culture and history of the area. So an example of this would be our French and Indigenous collections, our local history collection, our ancestry genealogical database access, and related programming. Social inclusion refers to accessible collections, so that's large print books, audiobooks, CELA requests, which are specific books on CDs that we order from the Center for Equitable Library Access for people with visual impairments, interlibrary loans, and internet access. Cognitive literacy and development focuses on children and youth collections and programming, like class visits from the local schools, story times, and crafts. Health and wellness indicators focus on health programs and collections and the benefit of in-library requests for information and technological assistance. Engaged Citizens and Safer Communities looks at the economic benefit of library membership, volunteer hours, and personal development programs. Entertainment and enjoyment indicators include all of adult circulation, so that's books, DVDs, magazines, both digital and physical, seniors programming, and the number of library visits we have per year. And finally, the economic development indicator focuses on the funding the library receives from outside of the community, which includes our small annual provincial grants and funding generated within the community through donations, connectivity grants, and our own self-generated revenue, such as costs for printing. This also includes our salaries and staff training and development costs, as we are a local employer. So together, all of these indicators build our total economic benefit for the community, which, using our numbers from 2023 so far, is about $1.6 million social return on investment for the community. And if we want to break that down even further, that's a $302 benefit per resident in Seguin, a $330 benefit per Seguin household. The economic impact of one of our 4 branches being open for an hour is about $8,102. And the return on investment that you get from giving us our municipal operating grant is about 748%. So if you have any questions in the future about how we generate these numbers, I'm more than happy to go through the process with all of you. Okay. So in the grand scheme of things, what does all of this mean, actually? Aside from demonstrating what the Secret Public Libraries brings to the community and articulating our multifaceted value, we plan to use this tool to see where we need to grow our programming and services, help us secure funding and support, and continuously improve how we connect with the residents of Seguin. So far this year, we've had 59 programs for seniors, including social groups, book clubs, and author visits with over 340 attendees. Our summer programming for children this summer had 234 attendees throughout July and August. In the upcoming year, we're looking to expand our social programming for seniors and start building a comprehensive introduction to technology course so they can for seniors to enter the digital world and make sure that they have the digital literacy required to navigate it. Once our staff are properly trained, we're going to be launching our 3D printing services to the community, and we're currently working on creating an education program and basic projects for our crickets. And finally, we want to focus on our youth programming so we can create a space and environment for them to grow within Seguin. So all of this brings us to the Seguin Public Library's new strategic plan, which you all have a copy of in your agenda package. So this plan was created concurrently with the Township strategic plan so that the library can support the Township's broader goals while still working to build this public library service that Seguin deserves. So the first thing to note with our strategic plan is it does not have the length of the Townships. Since library services and the scope of what libraries provide to their communities changes very quickly, we decide a shorter term plan will allow us to pivot to address community needs while focusing on building an organization that's going to grow with Seguin. So our first goal focuses on strengthening our relationship with the Township and building ties with local organizations to help engage our community and connect them. Our second goal focuses on demonstrating the value of the library to the community by engaging Seguin to evaluate the library services, by looking at our library spaces through a different lens to provide new and exciting community spaces, and creating a staffing structure that will allow us to grow to provide the services our community requires while ensuring that we are a valid community employer. And our final goal centers around engaging the community through thoughtful programming on relevant topics and social needs, while looking for opportunities to build non-traditional collections for the community to use. We want to improve communication with all of you, with the township staff, and with the community to showcase what the library has to offer, and while working to become an integral feature of Seguin.
As stated in our letter, this budget is focused on investing in our amazing staff. Staff retention has been a significant issue for the library over the years. The board agrees with your consultant's recommendations to align the library compensation structure with competitive, fair wages. We recognize that this is a significant investment. However, these recommendations will allow us to attract local talent and retain the experienced professionals who make our library exceptional, thus making us a competitive and attractive employer in the community. We believe staff retention is important for a small community library like the Seguin Public Libraries. The longer our staff stay with us, the more they learn about our patrons, their names, their favorite authors, etc. There's something so welcoming about the community having a friendly face they know in the library. Allowing our staff to get to know our patrons will help us provide more personalized service. We envision a thriving library that invests in our staff's continuous learning and development. By building an appropriate staff training budget, we aim to equip our team with the latest skills and knowledge, thereby ensuring they remain at the forefront of innovation. This investment will elevate individual capabilities and enhance the overall quality of the service we provide to our valued community. All that said, we understand the budget constraints the council faces and recognize the need for fiscal responsibility. Therefore, we're proposing a reasonable allocation to improve our staff training budget alongside our request for wage increases. This dual investment in our employees will elevate their individual capacities and contribute to our public library's long-term success and sustainability. We're excited about the positive impact these investments can have on the vibrancy and relevance of our library, and believe a well-supported, inspired staff will continue to make our library a beacon of learning, community, and cultural enrichment.
Thank you very, very much, both of you. Educational and informative presentation. Do council have any questions for Janet or Stephanie? Councillor Bazinski.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of the value of libraries, especially in a rural area like this. Do you have outreach programs? Because, you know, the permanent population in the township may or may not be aware of what the library offers. And, you know, I know when I did my canvassing, there are people that have, you know, almost like Commodore 64 computers and no internet. And I'm just wondering if there's any way that you try and get an outreach to basically market your services.
Well, we do all of our marketing through our website, through our social media, within the libraries and all the community halls. It just becomes a point where it can be difficult to reach people who don't try to be reached. As much as we're able to put the information out to the public, we can only get through to people who are actually looking for it or want to receive the information. So we do our best.
Is it possible to design a program, like, for instance, I know my daughter is on 141 and just as a new arrival, 2 months old. And I mean, it's looking into the future, but for that kid, it would be nice for them to know that the library offers a wide range of services and that. So I'm thinking just in general in the township, there are probably people like that. That's just my comment.
Well, you're absolutely right. Doing some more outreach to young families going to be one of our priorities for the library. It's one of those things that's had to fall to the wayside over the last little while.
One of the things that Stephanie and the library staff developed during COVID was a YouTube channel where they did some of the programming, the craft programming and whatnot, and it was televised through YouTube. So those are the sorts of things that she's developing and wanting to expand on, and that would fall into the category you're talking about, Miriam.
I'm going to ask our CAO to jump in here, but your daughter could be part of early years, which is happening at every library every week.
Thank you, Worship. I think it's, there's some programming that's out there. I think one of the key things to pick up on here in the message from the library that, the library is very interested in working in collaboration with the township, and the township has reiterated the same back. In fact, in our newly adopted strategic plan, there's very specific language about youth engagement and furthering the programming offerings for youth, and that'll be done in collaboration as we move into the future. So I think there's lots of opportunity to provide further outreach for not only library services, but township services as well.
Thank you very much. We will consider your budget request very seriously. Thank you. And last but not least, poor Chris has been yeah, Chris, you probably learned a lot about waste that you didn't know. You will need to push the little green button.
I'll spare you. I'll keep it short and sweet. Before I start, I'd like to thank everyone for the continued support, the Chamber of Commerce over the years. The Parry Sound Area Chamber of Commerce has been a leader in business supports, consulting, and economic development in the area for over 125 years. Covering the entire West Parry Sound District, we represent businesses from as far north as Point of Barrel, as far east as Meganewan, as far south as MacTier. We provide a valuable service not only to our members, but to local organizations, not-for-profits, as well as non-members and the general public within the entire area. As a business resource and consultant, we help match entrepreneurs with funding opportunities, grant programs, professional development seminars and sessions, social media advertising and marketing presence, group insurance benefit programs, and networking opportunities and connections, to name a few. We also work as a liaison between business and government to advocate for issues that our members may be facing or struggling to work through by themselves. We have helped address tourism initiatives and opportunities the past year with the resurgence of the cruise ship industry on Georgian Bay, and are continuing to brainstorm, collaborate, and share ideas collectively with businesses to better tap into this new market. We successfully help businesses find staff, even housing for their staff, and keep an up-to-date record of what may be available for rent in the area and what properties may be available to lease, or any business interested in opening here or in the Parry Sound area. Our manager and membership service offers a great resource for individuals that wish to learn better social media and marketing skills, and we even help create campaigns and design layouts for free. We're always more than willing to invite people into our office and work with them on a one-to-one to address problems that they may be taking their business to the next level, pivoting their business to new customers, or adding to their existing customer base. As we are a not-for-profit entity ourselves, we rely solely on our memberships, affinity programs, 2 to 3 fundraising events per year, and municipal contributions to help assist our annual operational costs. Our board of directors is a working board, which assists our 2 staff members in our long-term strategic plan of helping our membership, providing governance, advocacy issues, and networking events. We value our partnership with the municipalities in our area and even have several council members sit on our advisory board of directors. Councillor Adams is on our board right now. Our advisory board members provide us with valuable updates, connections, and resources to their community, and are a great asset to our organization to help keep us in the loop with what's happening in their municipality. As we enter our 126th year in operation, our rebuilding process has seen remarkable growth and reach within our community. We currently have close to 250 active members and over 500 email subscribers. Our monthly newsletter is a valuable resource to our subscribers, and this publication is not only showcases upcoming events, but also a wide range of grant opportunities and funding programs. We also like to recognize new members and celebrate milestones of our existing members. We have seen large growth in social media followers, interactions, feedback, suggestions, and comments. And quite often we're tagged in posts by businesses and even in stories and reels. We are the voice and many times the face for new businesses as they prepare to launch into the market. And we pride ourselves in helping them reach success and longevity as they build their business. As you prepare to set your 2024 budget, we ask that you consider a financial contribution of $5,390 to our nonprofit organization to help us continue to build a strong business community, support economic development, and help provide outstanding leadership service for our members. I have attached a fairness funding formula sheet to see how we came to that figure in our request. This contribution, we feel, will help continue to strengthen and grow our business community in 2024. Thank you so much for your time and consideration and continued support. And I should make a note here too that as of the beginning of October, we currently have 31 businesses in Seguin in the chamber as well.
Thank you very much, Chris. Councillor Brzezinski.
Sorry, I seem to be monopolizing the questions, but Chris, in terms of marketing, do you market the businesses in the region?
Quite often they'll reach out to us and ask if we can help them get a little more visibility. We do market through our monthly newsletter. We market them through social media campaigns. We have a pretty good reach on our Facebook and Instagram. So we do assist them with marketing, or if they want to come in and kind of develop the marketing strategy, we'll work with them as well.
And so in terms of economic development of the region, would you say that you make a significant contribution? It sounds like it to me.
Well, we try and work closely with the EDO Perry Sound. We work closely with the Regional Economic Development Officer as well. A lot of times they'll reach out to us or put the bug in the ear of businesses looking to relocate to maybe talk to the chamber as well, or to become a member when they open up. So we're quite in tune with a lot of new businesses that are coming in or businesses that are looking to expand.
Or opportunities that the region has for new businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend I'm not sure I've got the name right, the breakfast, where you get together for breakfast with many businesses. That's happening, what, once a month?
We try and do a business over breakfast once a month in town. We do usually a lunch and learn once a month, which is kind of like a learning session over lunch. And then we try and do like a networking social after hours once a month as well.
So thank you, Chris, for all that you do, because I see the benefits of it many times in many businesses. So congratulations for what you've done so far, and we will consider your budget request carefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda and the addendum for the November 20th, 2023 meeting of council. Could I have a motion to that effect, Ted and Gail? All in favor? So we are moving to the draft budget, which is just a little bit of reading for you, people. Sorry. Okay. Yes, Councillor Getty. Oh. Well, it's item B, and we're going to start on A. It's my staff report has draft budget.
Yeah, this one. The actual agenda, the addendum.
Let's proceed with the budget since we have the treasurer online, and then we'll move on. Sorry. Do you want to introduce it, Jason?
Thank you, worship members of council. I'll be very brief and I'll hand it over to Michelle here while we have her hopefully with some stable internet from her current location. I will highlight that council, you provided us with some direction to consider a budget that did not exceed 4% That was supported by the Finance Committee. I did have a chance to meet with the Finance Committee last week and review these details with the Finance Committee. They as well provided a number of comments and questions. Generally, we're very supportive of where we were headed here. What we're presenting today is a fairly significant document with a fairly significant amount of reading, and I'm sure there's lots of questions to be asked. The intent today is to get this into your hands and give you some time to analyze, ask the questions you need to ask, and we'll do a touch base with you on the December 4th council meeting just to share the insights and questions that we'd received, seeking, of course, adoption on the special meeting of council that's booked for December 18th. I'll let Michelle give you the highlights of what is in the package, and we'll go from there.
Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you. And before I continue, if you hear any airplane noise in the background, I'm really sorry, but the airport's right behind me. So this is our draft 2024 operating and capital budget. First of all, I'd really like to thank Jason and the senior management team for all of their support and assistance in the last week. It wasn't easy putting this report together from a distance, but they did a lot of work this week to bring this document to you. There's a lot of information in this budget, and there are a lot of things in this budget package that are still estimates, that are subject to change, and that are still awaiting some direction from council. We will be asking council to make some decisions on some of the major things in the budget. There is a section in this report called extraordinary or unusual requests. We will be asking you to make decisions on those in the upcoming period. Right now, this budget is contemplating a municipal tax rate increase of 4.128%. With the combined education tax rate, the net effect to the average ratepayer right now will be 2.96%. But there are so many other bits and pieces in this budget that we really will need some direction from council. In the next couple months, or actually up until December 18th, I would really encourage you to review the package, to reach out and contact me if you have questions or if you would like to meet and go over some of the numbers, because there is a lot of information here, and I would like to make sure that that we all understand and appreciate everything that's in there by the time we approve the in-principle budgets on December 18th. Once we approve the in-principle budgets, the final budget, which will include the actual striking of the tax rate, will happen at probably in the spring. After we receive all of the external levies and the final education tax rate. And if council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Councillor Collins.
Hi, Michelle. Turn your mic on.
Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Ted.
The township's general insurance policy renews itself in March of 2024. Is that just the staff insurance? Does that include counselor insurance? Because I know we're separate from
the
staff.
Package, yeah, the package that renews in March, that's our general liability package.
Okay.
That includes the coverage for council, the coverage for boards, the coverage for our fleet, and our errors and omissions and liability.
So that's just the standard, but there's not, I know that our policy, really, we haven't reviewed that in many years. And I think 2015 or something like that. It's been quite a long time. So I'm just I've got that at home in my files, and because it's not the same as the rest of the staff, I know that. So not unless it's changed, Michelle.
Yeah, no, the staff
Because
has
it's
a-
all
a benefit.
itemized.
Yeah, the staff has a benefit package that is
Right.
covered through Manulife. But the coverage for council and the volunteers and the boards is through our general liability package, which is through, used to be Frank Cowan, I believe it's now Intact Insurance.
Are we going to get a copy of that, or have we had a copy of that? I don't think so. If we have in the past, I don't think we've ever
Yeah.
seen a copy of it.
But this is general liability insurance. This is not
Yeah.
benefits insurance.
No, I understand that.
There, I don't see there's any reason they can't have a copy, is there? So we'll
Up to date copy. Yeah.
get you a copy.
Okay,
of the
that's-
general liability, I guess, just or put it somewhere where we can find it online.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
provide it. It's a package about this thick,
Yeah.
but yeah, I can put it
Yeah.
together for you.
No, because we're not getting any younger. That's all. Thank you.
Counselor Bazinski.
Hi, Michelle. So, I just had a quick chance to skim it over. So I mean, I can't really talk in detail, but we are proposing to upgrade the temporary public works staff to full-time, I believe. But is that the only staff additions? Because I know there was talk of a number of other staff positions.
In the service level change proposals that were brought to council previously in public works, Tom had the proposal to take the 2 seasonal staff to full-time, and that is included in this budget. And then he also had a proposal for 2 new full-time staff with a vehicle as well. And that's not currently in this budget.
Okay. And there's no other staff, additional staff requests?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Worship. There's certainly going to be a lot of questions. It's a big document. This is a full year budget in front of you. So again, I would encourage members of council to take time, review it. One thing to make sure that we're successful in on December the 4th would be to ensure that we table all the questions so that everybody knows what everybody else was asking. So I'll ask for perhaps I'd encourage members of council to reach out directly to either Michelle or to the department heads or to me. But if you can, perhaps just copy me so that we have some consistency and I know every question that's being asked, so that when we come back to you, we can share with you what each of you was asking. And if there was any requested changes, I wouldn't want to make a change that one counselor recommends, but the other is in opposition to. So that would be the idea on the 4th, is to be able to share your insights with each other, and would give me a bit more comfort knowing that I know what they all are, so we can work together with senior management, with Michelle, to make sure that we get back to you with a fulsome set of responses to the questions, and all of your questions, concerns, or opportunities that you'd like to see are considered. Thank you, Worship.
Am I, just to clarify, are you asking for our comments to come to you via email in writing?
Ideally, that would be great. If you wanted to of course, come in and sit down and have a conversation, we're open to that too. We'll just make sure we get some notes while we're doing that so that we can ensure that we share the appropriate information with all members of council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bazinski?
And could I just request that all those comments maybe be circulated to the other members of council prior to the meeting?
Ideally, Councillor Brzezinski, what we would like to be able to do is provide council with a summary of all comments prior to. Of course, again, this is a big document. There's lots of questions to be asked. Some we're asking to look at architecture plans at the same time. So, I don't anticipate that we would have to bring it to you at the time of, but we'll try to get it to you as soon as possible. If not in a staff report, at least in as addendum item that says, here's all the questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We have our work cut out. Oh, is that a question?
No, I was just saying bye.
Oh, okay. Okay. So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
So now we move on to the flag policy. So we have a motion, and I believe Valerie will be joining us on this one. A motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the Township of Seguin flag policy attached to this resolution as Schedule A. Could I have a motion to this effect? Greg, can. And you have the policy, and we have Valerie to take us through it or answer any questions. Do you have a question?
Sorry, and I apologize, Mayor. Following along, it was the first one that come up. I thought maybe we had just not gone by. My comments, I guess, not really for Valerie, it's for council as itself. In regards to the, I think it's an excellent document as well, and I think it's good that we have something in place that has some formality to the process, because it is a very important process. The only one that I wanted to throw out for discussion was in regards to an OPP officer who lives in Seguin Township and who dies in the line of duty. Personally, I think that's too limiting. In a large municipality such as Toronto or York Region, if an officer dies in the line of duty, the civic locations will fly their flag at half-mast, and we are served by the OPP. So I'm putting it out for consideration that if an OPP officer is killed in the line of duty, because they are the policing jurisdiction for Seguin Township, that be a criteria for flying at half-mast to show respect for the members that serve us out of the West Parry Sound Detachment. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no objection to that. So there's a modification perhaps. I just had one question. As various requests for various flags come, who buys the flags? Who pays for them?
And I can answer that. We've asked that if you're requesting that we fly your flag, you provide the flag. They purchase it and we borrow the flag.
Borrow it and give it back? Okay. Just a small detail. Okay, so Craig and Greg are making a little bit of an edit here. But maybe because he moved it. Okay. So that's an edit to the top. Oh. Put some page numbers on it next time too, just so I can find it, but it is on page 1. Page 2, bullet point number 5. And what they're recommending is just that the phrase "who lives in Seguin Township" be deleted. So it would read that we would raise the fly the flag at half-mast as an OPP officer who dies in the line of duty, irregardless basically of where he lives, because that's our police servicing. So with that change, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Valerie.
There's 2 of the extra.
Okay.
First.
Okay. So we have 2 motions here, and I believe Sean will be joining us. So the first motion is that bylaw number 2023-129, being a bylaw to establish the Township of Seguin Emergency Management Program Committee and adopt terms of reference for the committee, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion? And Greg. And Sean? Yeah. Sean, do you want to explain it a bit before we move on to the next part?
Yeah, so what would have submitted here? So we have to, for our annual compliance council, we need to make council aware of our emergency management program, which we have a committee that will, that sits and reviews the program itself, conducts a review of the HIRA, critical infrastructure, all township specific details within the emergency plan. So we are utilizing an emergency plan that was developed through a group with West Parry Sound. So all the municipalities are utilizing the same plan with our own addendums to it. So with this year's program, one thing I did was I developed a term of reference for the planning committee, just to make it clear what our roles and responsibilities were as a planning committee and what we should be looking at. And again, all of this documentation, including this report to council, gets submitted to the EMO for our annual compliance sign off.
Does council have any questions? Councilor Getty.
Thank you, Sean. Just the only question that I had was both in regards to the West Parry Sound document and the Seguin specific document. There was no description of who the emergency or who the incident command person is that would take priority. And the reason why I'm asking that is I would assume that that is you.
Yeah, so that sits with our emergency control group. So all the senior leadership team sits on the emergency control group. So when our EOC is activated, members of the senior leadership team will be called upon as needed. Typically, the commanding officer would fall to the CAO. It goes to the most senior ranking person. And again, this is depending on the situation. So my role as a CMC, I'm in the EOC just to assist in the operation of the EOC, making sure proper documentation is getting filled out. In the event we do have to submit to the EMO for funding or just to help things roll along. So me sitting as the commanding officer in the EOC isn't ideal.
No, sorry. And that, as such, then do you designate, and I'm going to, you mentioned the CAO, do you designate or is there something in place who will be the incident commander?
Again, love to walk you through the IMS structure and how it rolls out, but it's kind of a first come, first serve type basis. So if there's one person sitting in the EOC, they're wearing all hats. And as people arrive, tasks will get assigned to them, ideally with the CAO sitting as the commanding officer in the EOC.
And the only reason I'm asking, Sean, is that in a situation like that, I don't want you to be subject to outside interference in making those decisions. So whoever the incident commander is should have that designation and not be subject to outside interference, whether it be from the public or political. That was why I asked the question.
Yeah, well, the emergency control group will be isolated from any outside influence, truly, within our EOC.
Thank you.
Any communications coming in will be filtered.
I figured that. I just didn't see anything specific to it. That's all. Thank you.
Councilor Collins.
We don't have a command or a mobile command center like they do in urban areas, of course, right? But I'm sure there would be a room designated, and I don't quite know where that room would be at this time, but I'm sure it will probably be here at the municipal office, right?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll jump in quickly. We will not publicly disclose where our emergency operations center is for a variety of reasons. I'll also suggest that there's, through the various plans that Sean keeps up to date and the training that folks like myself and members of our senior management team have to do, there's incident command, there's on-site incident command, there's quite a structure behind how we manage emergency situations. And again, to Sean's point, it really depends on the nature of what we're dealing with. where we're dealing with it. You have some experienced folks, unfortunately, that have worked through a number of real live scenarios. Most of the senior management team's been involved in the most recent pandemic as an emergency situation. But you also have members of your command group that have been through tornadoes, ice storms, flooding events, a variety of different things. So we're very well versed. Sean and the team do an excellent job of keeping us tuned in and ready to go. We do work collaboratively with our partners throughout West Parry Sound on annual exercises. I believe this year we're doing some joint training, but then we'll be doing a very site-specific, our own specific training event. There's requirements annually for us to do these things where we practice our roles to ensure that in the event of any significant emergency situation, that we are in the best position to preserve and protect our community. First and foremost, of course, being taking care of people's lives and making sure that we keep people safe, protecting the infrastructure that keeps us rolling here. So yeah, I mean, and Sean does an excellent job of keeping us tuned in.
Councillor Adams.
There's certificates of that. How long are they good for? Are they just are they different timelines, or they?
So the certification through the EMO?
Yeah, whatever training they're taking.
Yeah, so the for compliance, our ECG has to go through annual training. So we have to run training outside of our annual exercise, basically documentation, procedural, internal stuff we need to train on annually and submit that to the EMO, as well as our policy is our senior leadership team all take a minimum IMS 100, preferably the 200 if they have the time. Myself as a CMC, I'm at the 300 level, and plus a whole bunch of other stuff I had to do to get that designation. And so yeah, it's annual training. Once they're certified in an IMS certification, that's a one-time thing, and then it's up to us in-house to train, to make sure our ECG is trained annually.
Thanks, Sean.
Councillor Getty.
Thanks, Sean. And my question was only to ensure that you were protected and Sean and his staff were protected from outside interference. That was why.
And that would be why my response to we don't disclose the EOC location, because we need to have focus in life-threatening situations. Having managed several of these in my career, there is nothing more important than your emergency control group having their undivided attention and making sure they're doing the best to protect Seguin residents going forward, and having outside interference, whether it be media, residents, political bodies, is the last thing that needs to be in the way in a situation like that. So our EOC activates, and it's that's where we go, and we lock ourselves in.
Thank you. So we have the motion on the table. This is the first one. All in favor of approving it? Thank you. And this is the other piece of it. Motion that as per staff report DPS-FD-2023-006, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby acknowledge and confirms the Township of Seguin has completed all the necessary requirements of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and Ontario Regulation 380-404 for 2023. Could I have a motion? Councillor Fellner, Councillor Benson, all in favor? Thank you. So we are going to adjourn to the public meeting. Do I have to wait to 2:30?
Yes, it can happen to 2:30.
Okay, well, let's jump to item 8.
Business.
We'll jump to item 8, which is business. So 8A, I believe, is an item from Councillor Adams. And we'll come back to 7 at 2:30. It's on page 400, I believe. Yeah, it's page 400 of the agenda pack. Okay. Okay, well, has everybody on council read the letter that's in the package? Okay. So go ahead.
Sorry, I'll start over. Mr. Bryan has spoken to me a few times about the speeding and the condition of Horseshoe Lake Road. Working with Tom, I know he is trying to come up with a solution to control the speeding on Horseshoe Lake Road. Mr. Bryan is also concerned with the condition of the road, and I agree because I use the road myself. Mr. Bryan also feels the condition of the road caused the bushings to fail and had to be replaced. The bushings on my car had to replace also. Luckily mine were covered under warranty. His were not. It has to travel road. He has to travel this road to town. Very sound. Mr. Bryan feels he should be compensated for the damage done on his vehicle, and I agree. He only puts around 11,000 kilometers a year on his vehicle, which should not cause bushings to fail. Rough roads are the cause of bushings to fail. Thank you.
Does council have any questions of Councillor Adams? I guess we refer it back to staff. Councillor Fellner?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a particular comment about that request, but I think it's important to note that the horseshoe, that stretch of road, you know, we paid, I think it was about $700,000 to have that fixed. And the contractor did a terrible job. And at the time, there was no recourse for the contractor for the township to go after that. And I would suggest that road needs to get fixed. You know, somehow we've got to correct that. So I think it's been 2 or 3 years since I think we were waiting for recourse, I think.
I don't know whether we went for recourse, but it failed within weeks of being done.
Yes. So
it was done improperly.
Yeah.
Your worship, members of council, we were I'd like to go back and review this in detail, but as I recall, we were actually never invoiced for the work that was done on that road because immediately upon its failure, we were all over the contractor and the contractor never did invoice.
So we'll maybe staff can come back to us and let us know this exact status, but it literally failed within weeks of being done.
And your worship.
Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Bryan feel it's unsafe. Like they walk that area, they're right on that stretch, and they walk that area. They come around their corner and they're just flying all the time.
Well, and I would venture to say it's probably been worse with the construction on Lake Joe Road because everybody's been detouring.
I'm fortunate enough I can go to the highway. Whether or not they have to travel a road to get to the highway, and that's what makes it worse for them.
Your worship, members of council. So for those, for Mr. and Mrs. Bryant, there is a process for making claims. They're welcome to come into the counter here or to give us a call at the office, and they can submit a claim for damages if that's what I'm reading is that they'd like to make a claim submission. So there is a process in place for that. We do also work with OPP and we've collected quite a bit of data on Horseshoe Lake Road since my tenure here. So I'll circle back with our Director of Public Works and we will certainly have another look and see what we can do with respect to that road.
Councilor Collins.
Isn't the speed limit? We've lowered the speed limit on Horseshoe Lake to 40. 50 from 80, right? Now it's
No, sorry, it was 60. It's been put down to 50.
50 now.
It's 50 now,
Yeah. Okay.
except for the little section I'm on, it's 40.
Yeah, I thought it was 40.
Yeah, that little section,
All right.
Keg Road is 40.
Because how low do you want it to go? It's because it's a long drive there on Horseshoe, but 40, okay. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that questions that it's a mess. So staff will come back with what the next steps are, but they can make a claim.
Thank you.
We're still 2:30. So the next item is coming from me. Just as background, I apologize for the length of the package that came to us from Clayton Harris and John Fior, who are the two CAOs who provide the, I guess, staff support to the West Perry Sound Economic Development Collaborative. And you'll recall that for the past 6 years, it has been funded by FedNor to do economic development across all the townships in West Perry Sound. We've been through 3, I believe, economic development officers in that 6 years. And I'll be honest, I think the results have been mixed at best. And so, quote, strategic analysis was done by an independent consultant. And at the last meeting, Dale Robinson, who's the co-chair with me, and I said, before we go any further and spend any more money, we need to know which townships are in and which ones are out. So I am really coming to you to say, do you want to give the collaborative another kick at the can, but there's no more FedNor money? So it would be out of individual municipalities' pockets to create an economic development collaborative, which would involve at least one employee, maybe more. Jason has made a suggestion that maybe the responsibilities for this could fall on the business committee, which is newly formed this year, and Ted and I sit on it. It's tackling some issues. And basically, I need to hear from the councillors what they think about it. Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you, Mayor. That actually was my consideration. If you have 3 economic development officers in this space of 3 or 4 years, what that means to me is the position isn't sticking properly, and there could be a lot of reasons for it. And one reason can be if you're the sole person, and I can remember in one of my past jobs many years ago, I was the only person doing environmental impact assessment, and all the rest of the 70-person office was doing environmental site assessment, which is a totally different story. Very frustrating, no synergies, no critical mass. So I'm thinking that model is not particularly great. I did find it interesting that the town has their own economic development officer. And I'm thinking Seguin should have the strength that they could do a lot on their own. Now, as part of the background, I looked at our Seguin community profile, which I, as a planner, would use anytime I was doing a project in a municipality. And I'm sure a lot of people that are looking to locate businesses would also look at our community profile. And it's a very good document. It's a bit out of date now. I want to be generous. It's out of date, and it's not slanted towards somebody who might want to come in and look for economic opportunities. It's a very great document to talk about the quality of life and everything, but I was thinking we really should have a little more focused document that says, all right, you know, where's the serviced land, including, you know, gas, hydro, what's the reliability of the hydro? You know, that was a big selling point at the airport. And I'm sure the airport must be doing some marketing themselves too now, because we have reason to. So, I mean, I'd make a recommendation that at this point in time, we don't commit to fund another position, and look at the opportunities we have within the municipality. And I mean, there are a lot of smart people in the township here, and you know, planning, you know, forest, a number of people that could probably help to target a marketing program for economic development. The other thing is, where are we going to house the workers that we need for the new businesses? So, you know, you can't put the cart before the horse. I mean, I think it's good to you know, promote us, but we also have to be realistic as to, if we can't house new employees, can we really move forward? I mean, I was happy to see Champlain move in, you know, on a piece of land that otherwise would never be able to be used. But like, I think we should slow it down and you know, target what Seguin needs right now, and look at the potentials and for housing and other benefits that we need.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ted?
I can sum it up very quickly. It's been all talk and no action over the years. Simple as that. And what we have to do now, since we've already established our Seguin Business Committee, is focus on Seguin. Focus on selling Seguin. Focus on advertising and selling our airport, which you mentioned. Okay. This has been I think a committee of all talk and lots of paperwork, but simply no action. Can you name one? I can't. And it's been years. Well, I've been doing it now for 9 years and I haven't seen anything. And I'm a little bit skeptical of moving ahead, to be quite honest with you, with this Economic Development Committee.
No, and I agree. And I think part of the reason it didn't work was reporting to 7 CAOs. It's just a really hard position to get put in. The other piece is that the FedNor funding did not allow any marketing for tourism, because they have Explorer's Edge, which is another. So we've talked about this at the Airport Commission, welcome packages for businesses, those kinds of things. Now, Jason's probably shaking a little bit in his boots because we're saying we've got a lot of smart people and more jobs to do with the same number of people. But we do need to be careful of attracting people with no housing. I mean, Sergeant Cement was planning to bring executives here and they couldn't find any place to live. So they're commuting from Barrie. So, and they came on their own. They like the location to make cement, but they can't get their senior management here. So we do have carts and horses and chickens and eggs, and I think we need to have a foundation. So is anybody disagreeing with staying out of the group? Okay,
I'm not disagreeing, but
okay, you have to say something. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not putting up my hand to disagree. I just wanted to make sure I provide a bit more context. Couple things. I mean, I think economic development is embedded in every one of us in some way, shape, or form as staff. So it's just about, if this is what council wants to see us focus on, it just has to get a different level of reporting and awareness brought forward. With respect to the collaborative, you know, just for council's benefit, we have, as I understand, this most recent departure of our economic development officer was the 3rd in 6 years. In fairness to the position and those who have filled it, hiring people on 2-year contracts with no guarantee beyond doesn't exactly give you stability in the workplace. It doesn't exactly create an opportunity for business continuity year over year over year. And there have been some, what I would say, challenges associated with the parameters in which the EDO was permitted to work under based on the funding formulas and the funding programs. As you highlighted, they couldn't spend any time working on tourism. Pretty important component to our economic well-being in this region is tourism. So all that said, there was many challenges. We're here to take your feedback and as the chair, Mayor McDermott of the committee, you'll return like every municipality is right now. They're all having this very same discussion. So we're happy to do whatever it is you'd like to see us do from an administration. But I did want to just highlight that while the program has not necessarily been as fruitful as maybe you had hoped over the last 6 or 7 years, the program also had some pretty significant challenges in front of it that restricted its ability to be particularly successful. With the FedNor funding being cut off now going forward, the piece that's also has to be brought to your attention is if you did want to participate in a regional economic development office, our portion of that funding has to climb. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think we were contributing $22,000 a year towards the regional economic development office. I think it was us in Perry Sound at 22,000 and the rest of the municipalities at 11. We should count on that number to triple if we're going to stay in that model, that business model with because the FedNor funding was fairly significant. So just wanted to put all that out there for you as you consider this as well.
Councillor Bazinski?
I just wanted to ask a question, like, in the funding formula that's used to determine the municipal components, assessment is one of the criterias, and that usually drives Seguin's up hugely. So why? Because assessment is that like because we get a tax return on assessment, or I could never understand why that was used as a criterion.
I can't really tell you why the historical criterion were set up, but I believe you hit the nail on the head. You got more people, you got more money, therefore the economic development's coming back into your township's pocket. But I really don't know the history. And I guess I think there is a way for the business committee to help coordinate, maybe through the airport commission too, because there's some governance changes happening there in terms of marketing. I guess my one question back to the board, and Dale and I will have to tackle this as co-chairs, I guess. There's $19,000 sitting in the budget. Do we divvy it up amongst the townships? I'm pretty sure McKellar and Whitestone are going to be out. And just from the chat at the table, I'd be surprised if anybody's in. I mean, somebody actually said it's not the West Perry Sound Collaborative anymore. It's the West Perry Sound Collapse. So we need to know where that money goes or where it sits or gets put in a reserve or something. But what I'm hearing from you is I will go to the next meeting and say, Seguin's going to go it alone for now. Is that agreement to that? You okay with that? Okay.
Want to be the new EDO for Seguin Township?
Well, I think Jason's right. We do talk about growth and welcoming people, but we probably need some more tools, update what's there. Do we need a business welcome package? Do we need an employee designated when a live company comes to shepherd them through the processes? We know at the airport, we have a whole lot of what we call tire kickers that waste the general manager's time because he takes 3 or 4 hours giving them a tour, telling them about it, and then he never hears from them again. So you need to shepherd the ones that are real and live and somehow identify those. So
I'm just going to touch on one question because you did touch on the airport. New businesses that are interested in coming to our industrial park, the airport, can they buy the land, or is it still the land under lease?
At present, everything is only for lease, but it is the biggest issue that the commission is trying to tackle right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you.
Terry, I believe you're going to give us a verbal update on the West Perry Sound Recreation Culture Center, which I always say better known as the pool.
The pool. So we had a meeting of the board last Wednesday. It was probably the most interesting meeting we've had in the existence of the board, probably. Big news was we were able to secure the new site. Our CAO did a masterful job along with the CAO of McDougall, I believe, and they were able to strike a deal. So the address is official for the new pool is officially going to be in always kind of 44 Joseph Street. So backs into the high school. So it's a great location. Services right out the door. That was the first real super duper piece of news we got. The second was, I think you'll see in the correspondence, I believe there's a letter there from the town of Perry Sound. The town of Perry Sound has council has decided to waive all the development fees, all the sewer and water hookups, et cetera, for which is a savings probably of about $400,000, $500,000, you know. The one thing they are the building permit's going to be about $100,000. And the reason why is they don't currently have staff that's qualified to inspect a building of that type. So they're going to have to go to hire a consultant and engineering firm to act as their agent. And they want, they want to recover their costs. So that was great news. Not so great, but not probably all that much of a surprise is the representative from the Township of McDougall informed us that McKellar, not McDougall, sorry, Dale, informed us that they no longer wish to be part of our board, which isn't a sort of a huge surprise, I guess, because since the new term of council, the representative declined to vote on it, and I think he just abstained himself in every decision. So anyhow, they've put out this long document for all the reasoning, and apparently we're changing substantially what we were originally going to do, and yada yada yada, and they want out. They were informed at the meeting that is not a decision of the board, that's a decision of the respective councils of the municipalities that are going to own this complex. So you will see this letter come shortly, I believe, from the secretary of the pool board. And I believe under the Constitution that all 5 municipalities would have to agree. It has to be unanimous. I mean, I could go into all the details, but you'll see it. When you read it, they're willing to pay for this and that, not that and this, and, this kind of thing. So I believe a couple of the municipalities have already seen it and voted on it and weren't really interested in losing a partner, I believe. Trying to remember if there's anything else that I should be mentioning here. For me?
Communication plan coming.
Yeah, our communication plan is coming, but the good news, the only thing that seems to be a bit contentious at the moment with the pool is we need to get some proper gallery space for the gym and the pool and keep it within the existing footprint. Of course, there was a real, there was an interest in a lot of areas to go to a second floor. A second floor is really not in our snack bracket, to be quite honest, but we're looking at some creative ways to, we want to have competitions, we want to have tournaments, that's what it's for. So, again, members of the steering committee are working hard with our consultants to come up with some solutions. So I think the board, I think this member of the board recognizes anyhow that it's very important. So any questions?
Yep. I got a big
Uh,
question.
Counselor Collins, and I'll get to you.
When this was initiated with the municipalities prior to putting in any monies forward, wasn't there some type of an ironclad contract?
Yeah.
So the part that the mayor mentioned about five townships have to agree on what McKellar wants to do, correct?
Yeah,
If they want to pull out of the
that's correct.
agreement.
That's correct. McKellar's already agreed, right? Because they're the ones that want out. So there's
Yep.
6 altogether. So the remaining 5, right?
Yep.
Count their respective councils.
Right.
Have to agree.
Yep. Okay, because that was one of the concerns that I had from the very beginning, is that I didn't want this pool complex ending up being in the hands of Perry Sound and Seguin only, just like the airport is.
Yep.
Because when the feds gave up the airport, all 6, 7 municipalities were involved. And then one by one, over the course of years, because of the maintenance of the airport, they started to drop out. And I didn't want this to happen with the pool, because this is this is going to be a major staple in our community moving forward with this pool. And I want to just make sure of that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor Bazinski.
So Terry, will Seguin own a physical piece of the land and the building?
Yeah, the funding formula was developed, and I believe Seguin owns 24, roughly, the second largest piece after Perry Sound, and it got adjusted, Mario, at the last minute when Whitestone pulled it. Right, there was 7. It was figured, the funding formula was figured on 7 municipalities. At the 11th hour, Whitestone bailed. Again, our CEO did a good job of going out and saying, different municipalities took certain portions of that of their stake. So we are the beneficial owner of 24% of the facility for the time being, because of the charitable status of the pool board being under appeal. The town of Perry Sound facilitated purchase of the property because it required issuing a charitable receipt. So it's sitting, the pool board's funding the town to make the purchase, and it's sitting basically in trust for the pool. And then, at some later date, we'll figure out how to get it, under the name. But yeah, that's and then the votes on the board are weighted as per the investment. So Seguin's got 3 votes, Perry Sound's got 3 votes, Archipelago and McDougall got 2, and McKellar and Carling have got 1. So it's not a simple, 5 against 1 type of thing. It's weighted. So yeah.
And then in terms of the users, once the pool's in operation, for instance, if Perry Sound High School kids want to be given swimming lessons, would that then be funded through the Near North board?
Yeah, as far as programming in the future, how it's all going to shake down, I don't think anyone has the exact details. I mean, the focus right now, really, Mario, was to build this facility to include all the amenities to make people who want to utilize it. And the big user groups, the school, the seniors, people like the Perry Sound Stingers girls basketball team, They're all gonna make, and I believe they've already formed a new aquatics club in
Perry Sound Nation.
Perry Sound Nation. They've already in anticipation of having a pool that they can put venues on. I mean, it's starting to, I think we're just really waiting to be able to nail down the geographic location so we can put a sign up and say, here it is. This is what it looks like. It's coming. I think they're letting the consultant right now is got the contract for the site work, I think, out like for or close.
So like
for tender. So
the
we're gonna move.
spring
No, I think we're gonna move before that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can tell you that we did discuss with the Near North School Board when we were doing the business plan to move to 6 lanes in the pool. And Ontario education curriculum has basic swim lessons for grades 3, 6, and 9. And they gave me numbers of what they'd pay per student to do those programs. So they would be a renter of space, as would synchronized swimming clubs, aquafit, all those things would be revenue positive for the facilities. Some of us visited a large facility in Aurelia, which is quite a bit bigger than we're building, but they're already going to build another one because they've got so much demand for not only their pool, but their gym facilities.
They have two. They were only open when we went to see them. It had been barely open a year, I think. They were already 100% utilized and looking to expand.
Councillor Finson's next.
My question is, the fees that are being waived by Perry Sound, are they taking those fees back in their contributions to the pool? That's what I thought I read.
No.
It did say that in the letter.
Well, yeah, no, what that state, what council agreed to the original cash call from that the townships agreed to.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't affect that.
Okay.
If down the road we weren't, for whatever reason, we had to come back, which we're not going to come back, for additional money to complete construction, then they'd want a credit of it.
So does that mean that the $100,000 that will be put out for engineering would also be covered by Perry Sound, seeing as they don't have qualified staff? Or does that go on everybody?
There'd have to be some sort of, but we're not anticipating coming back. Nobody
Okay.
really wants to come
Okay.
back.
Thank you. That's all.
Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Terry, just, and I think I probably know the answer, but with McKellar wanting to opt out.
Yeah.
They're locked into a co-ownership contract right now.
Correct.
By opting out, from what I read in the paper, they're still going to continue with the initial down payment plus their 10-year commitment. So the benefit to them would be any ongoing maintenance costs or repairs after the 10-year period.
Well, I think,
Do I understand? Because I don't.
Yeah. So the original financial commitment for the capital expenditures to build the pool have already been 100% paid by each municipality. So we've already paid all our money. The town's already paid all their money. Everybody's paid all their money. It's in the bank account of the pool board because of the grant structure and this and that, we need some operating, these guys need operating capital, right? So they're not disputing that. They're saying you can have, I think it was about 750, you can have that. But where their concern would be, and then they capped operating costs contributions for the first 10 years at $30,000, and then after that they wouldn't be expected to contribute any more. What would happen to their interest, I don't know. That would be something that would have to be. But the thing is to count my personal opinion, anyhow, is that much the same as Councillor Collins, right? Once you're in, you're in. So, but anyhow, it's, it'll be coming for all, for this council to consider, and I think though, very positive, the progress the last couple months. It's been a really hard freaking year and a bit, you know, I mean, I myself personally are very, very pleased where we are right now. Yeah, so.
Councillor Adams. Councillor Adams, you had your hand up. Nope, nope. I think we are, I mean, it's concrete. It's gonna happen. The doubters should be gone. There's two very important, well, I'll tell you, there's three very important fundraisers coming up. One is the December 17th Christmas or Winter Sound Waves at the Stocky Center, which the Stocky Center has been donated to us for this. It's a family-friendly musical event with magicians and Santa Claus and all kinds of things. Tickets are on sale through the Stocky Center now. March 30th will be Hockey Day in Perry Sound. The Maple Leaf hockey team alumni will be here for a full day playing all different levels of people. The regular tickets to that are moving fast. In fact, I heard some sections are already sold out. You buy the ticket for that through the Rotary. It'll be at the Bobby Orr Center. And our CAO, Jason, will be skating against the Maple Leafs. No, somebody's said he can skate. And then on Saturday, August 10th, there will be the first annual Carling Rocks rock concert. And I think it goes from 2 till 11. I don't have the exact dates or times, but food trucks, bands, again, family friendly until 9 o'clock. And but
wasn't there another one? The Polar Dip? Weren't you doing?
The Polar Dip has not come together for this New
practicing.
Year's. You've been
going,
practicing?
yes, my son and I have been going in the water.
Well,
now I don't have to go back in.
It might come to be next year, but the key organizer had some surgery and it just didn't come together. They wanted to do it in Georgian Bay. Perry Sound didn't want to cooperate. Dominique was happy to cooperate at Rosso Park. It just didn't happen for the Polar Bear Dip this year. So have a warm bath. You want to speak? Sorry, go ahead, Terry.
Just, you know, further for hockey fans, at the December 17th, there's going to be 4 platinum Leaf tickets up for grabs. There's going to be a pair of golds up for grabs for a game that's just before New Year's. And there'll be a pair of golds for the Boston-Toronto game in early March, which might be of some interest to the folks around town. So, among other things.
Yeah, I've got several set foursomes from various golf clubs that'll be in the auction as well.
You know, I encourage everybody to come out. I think it's gonna be a fun day. I really do.
Thank you, Worship. As I understand it, to play in this Leafs alumni game, it requires skates, maybe a little goodwill, but it also requires someone to put up some dollars to nominate someone. And I don't frankly know who, but I know it was a Seguin resident who's anonymously put my name forward to represent the township as a member of this team. I'm not sure how thrilled I am, but to the anonymous Seguin resident, thank you, I think, for giving me the opportunity to represent the township. I'll start my training tonight.
But council better be there to cheer him on. Okay, we're going to go back to item 7, but our clerk has suggested that you might want a 5-minute break before we go back to the public meeting. Yes? Thank you. Okay, what have we got? We've got right now 2:53. How about there's no what? Okay, so we're on item number 7 on the agenda, which is the public meeting. So I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matters. Consent application numbers B 2023-0021-F and B 2023-0022-F for coppage. On consent application number B 2023-0018-H and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2023-0022-H for Davidson. Could I have a motion to move into public? Terry and Gail. All in favor? Thank you. Council will now hold public meetings for proposed consent and zoning bylaw amendment applications. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to granting a consent or passing a zoning bylaw. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment and who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide your full name and address to the clerk. No one other than the prescribed persons may appeal an application under the provisions of the Planning Act. If they do not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin prior to the decision of Council, then the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. The purpose of consent application numbers B 2023-0021-F and B 2023-0022-F for coppage is to provide deeded right-of-way access that will benefit to abutting waterfront properties. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the township, by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on November 6, 2023. Notice was therefore considered to provide in accordance with the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
No correspondence has been received.
There's no one present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications. Has anyone registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to these applications.
Does council have any questions? And I think we have Lauren online to answer any questions. No questions? Okay. So we move on. The purpose of consent application number B 2023-0018-H for Davidson is to create one new lot. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2023-0022-H for Davidson is to ensure compliance with the minimum frontage and area requirements of the zoning bylaw. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on October 26, 2023. Notice was therefore considered to provide in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
And there is no one present in person in the council chambers. So has anyone registered to speak to this application via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to these applications by electronic participation.
Does council have any questions? And I see Brady on screen to reply to any questions. I see no questions. So we have a couple more pieces of this. Then we're going to close the public meeting with a motion that the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. I need to read these. Motion to that effect. All in favor? Going back into public. Thank you. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application numbers B 2023-0021-F and B 2023-0022-F for Coppage, subject to the conditions set out in the decisions. Could I have a motion to that effect? All in favor? And I have one more for Davidson. Two for Davidson. Two. Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application number B 2023-0018-H for Davidson, subject to the conditions set out in the decision. I have a motion to this effect. Carrie and Gail. All in favor? And I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-126, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-004-03600, application number R 2023-0022-H for Davidson is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I'm a mover for that. All in favor? Thank you. So we're moving on to item 9 now. So I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-127, being a bylaw to establish public highways known as Elsasser Road and Standing People Road, and to identify the lands to be known as Amick Road, but which lands are not assumed as a public highway, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. A motion. Does council have any questions? Councillor Bazinski.
So just so I understand, that means it's not going to be a municipally maintained road, or will it be?
It's a good question. It's my question too. Tom, are you available? Is Amick Road going to be maintained by the township?
Amick will not be. The reason behind that is because the benefiting lands that the township owned were all along Standing People Road. There was no municipal properties on Amick, and then when the engineer came back with the cost, it was high. So Standing People Road will be the only year-round municipally maintained road. We just identified Amick as essentially a private road.
So how many lots are on Amick Road that will be owned by anybody?
I want to say there's potentially 4 suitable building lots and 3 to 4 not suitable lands in there.
So let's take the 4 suitable lots. Are they all owned by one person?
No, there's 4 different people. I believe so.
Do they know that there's not going to be any municipal servicing of that road? I wouldn't buy there.
Yes, they're aware. Actually, we were in conversations with one of them not too long ago, and then I know they're chatting with planning as well, and just letting them know of their options, just like any other private road.
Is Amick Road built to what do I call them, municipal standards, like the right width and stuff?
No. It's only punched in probably, I think it's like 40 meters.
Yeah, but there could be 4 driveways going in there.
The land actually did not allow it was a very high cost to build that road, and there was no real cost offsetting. where we were going to recoup our money from rebuilding this road. It would have been another $500,000, and based on the lots that are available on Standing People Road, to sell those lots, we'll barely get by selling or recouping our costs essentially.
Okay, Councillor Fellner has a question.
So, sorry, thank you. The 4 lots that are on, which road was it? Amick Road. Are they subject to holding or is building able to issue building permits on them based on private road access?
I see Taylor jumped on, so I'll let him answer that question.
All of them except for one still have the holding symbol on them, so they would not be eligible for a building permit today. And the one that doesn't have a holding symbol on it is the one where the road has been improved to. And my understanding has a right of way in favor of it as well.
So, okay, I'm trying to get my head around this one now. So this road is within a public right of way, right? Correct? Am I correct there? So there's a road allowance there, but we've elected not to open that road. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. So is there a mechanism for the owners of those 3 buildable lots to apply to have their holding zone or the H taken off title if they're prepared to build themselves a private access into that lot?
Yes, yeah, there's several mechanisms, I think. Well, the one low hanging fruit I would say is the bylaw and like the local improvement one as well. If it's something they want to opt into, upgrade the road so they have a seasonal road, and then I believe apply to get relief or lift that H. That is one avenue I believe they can go down, and Taylor can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No correction needed.
Okay, so just so I close, so I'm the owner of one of these lots. I've decided I want to build myself a house, but I can't. So there's a mechanism where I can come to the township, say I'm prepared to put in a private road to access my lot. I have no expectations for it to be maintained. Is there a mechanism in place for that H to be removed from planning so I can go and get a permit, build my road, build my house? That's my question.
I think
Taylor, go
what they
ahead.
would need to do is get a right of way in favor of them on top of the municipal property. My understanding that isn't a municipal road allowance, it's actually real land, so we might be able to put a right of way on top of it if it doesn't exist already. Ensure it's registered on who has responsibilities for maintenance and whatnot, and then the holding symbol could be removed. That's not all in place today, but we just kind of found out from a property owner inquiring last week on this very topic on what we'll likely be looking at in the near future.
Councillor Bazinski.
But so I guess, Taylor, just to put it very simply, can the municipality take away the holding provision on a private road and then allow the lot to be developed?
The last thing we would do is remove the holding provision. So we'd want to ensure proper and legal access first. And then the last part of the process would be getting rid of the H symbol once we're satisfied with that.
And would proper and legal access be municipal access?
It could be. My understanding though from the topography, that's unlikely to occur because the cost is just so high, and to build a municipal road there, doesn't sound like it's likely to occur from what Tom said. So we might be looking at a private right of way as the only way to do it. We'll just have to see if that's appropriate or not. But I don't believe we're able to get municipal plow trucks and such on that stretch of Amick.
Go ahead.
Your worship, I might suggest that this discussion about the properties on Amic beyond what has been constructed is something that we can report back on. I think we could spend the next hour trying to figure this out. And in fairness, I don't think the intent of today's report was to draw this out. So I think if council's happy to just refer this back to staff, we'll come back with a report that shows what options on how those lands could be developed into the future.
Okay, so can I say this is deferred?
I wouldn't defer that.
Need to defer
This bylaw is not incorrect in that it is still going to name two roads and assume one. So it's not incorrect. What you want to do is assume the second one, which could be a different bylaw.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Sorry,
so-
my mic wasn't on for that. So no, you wouldn't defer this bylaw. You would pass this bylaw because it's really going to name two roads and assume one. If council chooses in the future to assume the other one, that would be a separate bylaw.
Okay, thank you for your clarification. So all in favor? Thank you. We move now to council reports. Let's start with Gail.
I've had a few meetings this month or this last couple of weeks. I've had a meeting with the Santa Claus Parade float. We met with that. We're meeting again a couple of times this week because it is on Saturday. I had a recreation committee meeting. I've had a Belvedere Heights meeting and I'll have another one tomorrow. It was the finance committee meeting. It was very well done, actually. It was a really comprehensive financial report. And I mean, I don't really understand finances that well, but it was really easy for me. It was very interesting. They've done a really good job. I've had a lot of calls about the signs, the traffic signs being removed on the two highways. And the answer, if anybody asks you, is because MTO has asked them to be removed for the winter for snow removal. They will be put back in the spring. They have been effective, according to people that have called me. They really like them and they were okay with that if they were coming back. So that's why they've been removed, because they have to plow back, I guess, pretty far along the highways. So if anybody asks you, they will be back and in working order. I was at the Remembrance Day service. I think that's more people than I've seen out in Rosso in a very long time. I think there was 60 people there. It was pretty amazing, I thought. And the additional having the road closed by the OPP was just, it was really touching. It was a really touching service. It was great. Anyway, I think that's all I have to report. There's a few other things, but I don't seem to be able to see them. And I know everybody's tired, but that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess November started out, I invited the CEO to come out to Orville for a tour of Ward 5. The last time he was there was back in 2019, so I thought maybe getting him back to show him what's going on in my ward, the proper thing to do. November 11th, I attended the Remembrance Day ceremony, and we had at least 50 to 60 residents as well show up in Orville. I had a DSAB regular board meeting that I attended. I also attended the retirement party for John Kerr when he retired from the roads department. And I went to the staff lunch at Tapatoo. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mayor. I've already discussed the pool meeting we had. I had as well, I as well attended the staff lunch. I attended the rec committee meeting. And I can, and I have a turkey dinner meeting to attend later this week. In the last few weeks, Park to Park, and the park in our Parks and Rec department have been able to basically finish the trail-based repairs pretty much from Diamond Lake back to Tim Hortons. So there shouldn't really be a puddle left or any significant puddles. We've still got a few water management issues back there, but we're really, really close to having a consistently good trail bed that we can finish off for all types of recreational use, which I'm happy to report. Thank you very much to Dominique, Ken, and Matt for the hard work especially Matt, the hard work the last 3 or 4 weeks, especially when the weather wasn't that great. Yeah, that's it, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Remembrance Day ceremony at the Humphrey Public School. And I'd just like to recognize the staff and the students for the work that they did on it. It was heartening as an older person to hear 2 students from the school, one in grade 5 and one in grade 7, I believe, wrote their own personal song in regards to Remembrance Day and was sung by the choir in Humphrey School. So a shout out to the staff and the students there. On November 16th, the community had budget training with it's part of the ongoing process of the new implementation for the Community Policing Safety Act coming in sometime next year. Jason and I are working through that as well. And on the same date, I had a library board meeting. Thank you.
So I attended the staff lunch at Tapatu. It was very well done. The food was good, and had a chance to look out over the water and think about when the ice was going to be forming. I also talked with Forrest with respect to the funding request from the Muskoka Watershed Council. It's a significant request, and we've come up with a suggestion for it. And there will be a Muskoka Watershed Council meeting this Friday.
November 13th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting by Zoom. November 14th, I attended the meeting for the float with Gail and Dominique. November 15th, I attended the Recreation and Culture meeting. November the 17th, I attended the staff lunch at Resort Tapatu. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I don't have much to report. November 8th was the pool meeting that Terry reported on. Remembrance Day was, I think, well attended, and yeah, we know how to close the highway. The OPP just said, I don't report to the Ministry of Transportation. He turned his car around. November 13th was a meeting for this Carling Rocks. I'm somewhat of a bystander because rock and roll and all day in a field is not in my background, but there's a committee, there's event promoters, there's down payments being made with bands. So I think it'll be quite an event. And then on November 16th, I participated in the Northern Ontario Women's Caucus meeting by Zoom. And it's always interesting to see the shared issues coming up amongst the mayors. The female mayors have very similar issues depending on the community, but I'm certainly learning lots about municipal services corporations, how people fund wastewater treatment in municipalities way smaller than us. So there are lots of shared things to learn there. And I think our CAO has something to report.
Thank you, Worship. Couple of quick reminders. One, the Township food drive in support of the Harvest Share continues. Starting to see the boxes filling up here in the Township office and in some of our community facilities. So please, if you are able, it'd be wonderful to help make that even better than we did last year. Some exciting news: in the spring of 2024, the Township will again be offering the food cycler at a discounted rate to residents who sign up for the program. This is after receiving dozens of responses to a recent online campaign to gauge resident interest. So stay tuned for the details. We're working through that now. Friendly reminder that the township has a float at this Saturday's Santa Claus Parade in Parry Sound. The annual Santa Skate is happening at Humphrey Arena on December 10th. And staff is also supporting events led by the Recreation and Culture Committee, including the Christmas Market in Orville on December 2nd, the Kids Christmas Party in Orville on December 16th. Staff have also recently launched a volunteer recruitment campaign, offering residents the opportunity to get involved with the community in various ways, from environmental initiatives to seasonal events and festivals. Please visit seguin.ca/volunteers for details. And a couple notes on a couple of our staff members. Director of Planning Taylor Elgie will represent Seguin Township at a panel discussion this coming Wednesday, organized by the Lakelands Association of Realtors. Taylor will provide relevant insights about Seguin's guidelines to help inform buying and selling here in the township. And Director of Strategic Initiatives Forrest Pengra will represent the township on November 30th as part of a panel called Taking Action in Biodiversity and Climate Change at the annual State of the Bay 2023 conference, which will be held at the Stocky Center for the Performing Arts. Always proud to see our staff out representing the township. And those are two pretty significant opportunities for us to be highlighted. So thanks to staff for doing that. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question for the Santa Claus Parade. In the past, you needed volunteers to walk alongside the float and hand out stuff.
I'm pretty sure that there are a couple, but anybody who'd like to do that, I'm sure would be very welcome to. And anybody who has kids who want to be on the float, or grandkids who would like to be on the float, they are also welcome through Dominique.
Maybe you could ask Dominique to send out to at least council when volunteers for.
Yeah, because I think there's a meeting tomorrow night, and I think there's another one this week, one in the day, one at lunch.
Saturday, isn't it?
It's this Saturday.
Yeah,
yes.
and so, yeah, I
we're
remember
getting
last,
together at
but we were pre-COVID, there were a lot of us handing out candy and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's probably great. Anybody who wants to volunteer, I'm sure is welcome.
Well, just tell us where and when. Because there'll be an address where the float is parked.
Yeah, I will.
Thanks. Okay. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive board and committee minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda for the November 20th, 2023 meeting of council. Moved by Gail, seconded by Ted. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 3:31 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and that's related to the North Sandy Plains Road development agreement, proposed amendment, and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And again, it's about North Sandy Plains Road, and then also Seguin versus Exler. All in favor of, motion first, Gail, to move into closed, seconded Mario, and all in favor. Ted. And Gail, all in favor. Now we have to come out of open. Let's get a recording of this. I'll push a button for record. I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-128, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Terry and Gail, all in favor. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council at 4 p.m. to meet again on Monday, December 4th, or at the call of the mayor. motion? There you go. And you can, yeah, no, I never have problem getting these carried. All in favor? You're done.